Welcome to The Downside. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. I'm here with my sweaty co-host.
Oh, yeah?
Russell Daniels.
Okay.
A little moist around the lips.
Yeah, a little moist.
Watch
Actually,
the YouTube,
well, I
guys.
tried a new I tried a new face cream, so it feels like it's like, you know when you put like a sunscreen on or something? And actually it makes you more moist.
Sure. That's why I don't do anything.
I know. Well, I don't. And then I was like I've been trying to like do more, just like normal, like if you're going out, like that kind of
You
thing.
saw the YouTube comment.
No, I didn't. Was there one?
Do you have a skin routine?
No, I look like this.
Sure.
I know it's a podcast, but it's also filmed. Yeah, no, I do not.
Beard
not
helps.
taking care of it. That's my skin routine.
Beard help, but are you doing beard oil?
No,
No.
nothing.
Me neither.
No, I do whatever my wife asks me to do, and that's it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. She ever say like, hey, let's cut the nails?
No, but she'll say, let's cut the beard, you know.
Really?
Or the sun will grab on the beard and it hurts too much. I'm like, all right, I got to cut it now.
Oh, the sun. Oh, kid. Okay. I was
Yeah,
like,
Yeah.
For a minute, I
heard
was like
it's-
the
it's
sun. Like,
Yeah, it's
like
the
you're-
you know
yeah.
the Raisin Bran sun with its 2 scoops,
Yeah.
drops the scoops and then grabs my face. Yeah, I have a child.
Well, we'll get to your child in a second. I did want to share a message I got from sometimes people write asking if they could do the show,
oh.
and they try to make a strong pitch. I want to read this pitch exactly as it was. Here we go. I just, from my search box, all I put in was gay, and you'll see why.
Okay.
Subject: survived gay serial killer, but I'm now the bad guy. Good hook. Gotta say,
it's a good hook.
pretty good hook.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't know if I should say if he says he's a big fan. So if he hears this, write me.
Okay.
Write me. Let's see how big a fan you are. I was a savvy model, actor, stand-up comic. Always a warning sign when stand-up comic is third in that list.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Always a warning sign when savvy is first.
I was a savvy model, actor, stand-up comic attacked during my role in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, 2002.
Planet of the Apes.
Is that the Irish version?
Planet-
the Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes.
The Paul Giamatti as an orangutan. Die.
It's just Irish guys, but they refer to them as gorillas. The killer swindled the cops, destroyed my careers twice, again in 2018.
You were in Planet of the Apes.
Wait, I'm so
You
confused.
can't destroy a career.
We need so much more information. This happened on the set of Planet of the Apes, or
I mean, maybe we'll have to get him on to
I mean,
answer these questions.
actually I have a lot of questions. So.
Get
cops,
your paws off me, you damn dirty gay serial killer.
And then it happened 16
yeah,
years
I thought
later.
you're damn dirty Italians.
Yeah.
What?
Then it happened 16 years later. he's
16
saying.
years later, the killer destroyed his career again.
The killer is not killing him. He's just like,
Do you remember the end of that movie when?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, it's
wait,
amazing.
the remake is terrible.
The 2002 one.
Yeah.
There have been like multiple Planet of the Apes remakes since, but this was the Tim Burton one. At the end, Mark Wahlberg like sees the Lincoln Memorial, but it's a monkey.
Yeah.
It's like a monkey in a top hat statue.
They tried to
so
do
on the nose.
It's
God
so bad.
damn
It's
it.
so bad.
They tried doing
God
like the
damn
Statue of
it.
Liberty
the
thing.
original
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
was so cool in the
Yeah.
1968 version. They seized the Statue of Liberty and you realize, oh, it was Earth all along.
Yeah.
But like
Then it cuts to it's like a
so bad.
reality show TV host chimpanzee is now president of the United States of bananas.
Yeah.
Just a full on. That's the one with James Franco, isn't that one?
No,
No,
that's
no.
Mark Wahlberg.
No,
Okay.
that's the like remake, and then
That's
the
Rise of the Planet of the
2011
Apes.
after is like the reboot, which are kind of like prequels.
He taught at James Franco's acting school.
Yeah.
The cops call me a liar and also hire me to set up what catches him.
Oh my God.
I want to be a guest. I'm a hardcore fan of yours. Let me just say, tell me if you agree.
I'm intrigued.
If you are a hardcore fan, you will listen to this, I assume.
I'm also nervous.
Oh, I'm nervous.
If the cops are after him, I'm nervous. There's
I mean, I
things
think
where
the
we're
twist
not
is
hearing
he is
everything.
the serial killer, and he ruined his own career
Yeah,
twice.
I'm nervous to give him our coordinates. to have him come here.
We'll rent a studio.
Okay, yeah.
We'll rent
security.
a studio. If you hear this, what's the secret phrase?
To like
prove that
email
he's
you.
heard it. Yeah, email me.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
Yes,
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
Dr.
He's got to say
Zayas.
it twice, though.
Yeah,
And we will have you on the show.
we'll do a Patreon with him.
That's my.
I love that. We are willing to tell your story, but only if we financially benefit from it.
This is
Who's the real monsters here?
downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.
This is the downside. This is a place where we
You
can
don't even
complain.
get your name in the thing, huh?
No, I don't.
That's kind of.
We're gonna maybe when it comes around to season renegotiations, we'll talk about it.
This is the downside with Gianmarco Soresi.
I guess Andy Richter never got his either. So.
No,
Yeah, that's a great
kind of
point.
the deal.
And you're like Andy Thichter. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are here with roast battle champion and also writer of the could have been a hit show, Cops, created by Louis C.K. Mike Lawrence, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm supposed to say that I'm the that show not airing is the downside of all of that.
Was that
My
show?
career was killed. No.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no.
I do want to, let me just say, the place where we complain negative, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside.
Bring
This
up
is-
I guess worst credit up top.
I think that's a cool
I think
credit.
it's a
That's
cool credit.
mysterious.
Yeah.
If you were the lighting designer for Cosby's 77, the Netflix special that never got released, that's a cool credit.
Yeah.
You could be like, you have no idea. The lighting is my best work.
What they needed was a black lighting designer.
Do you think that we've talked about this before? Cosby had a full film special called 77. It was canceled 2 weeks before the release. It was supposed to be released Thanksgiving weekend so everyone could watch it with their family. Do you think, knowing what you know of the industry and the world, that file exists somewhere?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where you think Ted Sarandos has it in his house in like a lockbox? Because it can't be loose. People leak this shit. No one's ever leaked it.
No, and what will happen is someone disgruntled. Like they need to know everyone that worked on that thing and pay them. I love the producer shaking his head on this. They need to pay them properly because that's how that stuff happens. It's always, or something like. Did you watch like the Pamela Anderson, Tommy Lee?
Russell, have you seen that one?
The Hulu show?
Yeah, it was Sebastian Stan.
Oh, I
and
thought you
stuff.
meant the original.
No.
I signed the original, not the Hulu.
Yeah.
No, but the Hulu one, it was interesting. Like I didn't realize like what the guy that released it was a dude who was a contractor who Tommy Lee didn't pay. He did all this work and he didn't pay him. And he went back and he stole the tape, and that's how it released. It's like, take care of
But
people.
how did he get the tape? Like, how many VHSs? You think he had it like it marked? Like Tommy had like a sex cabinet or something?
I'm sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that guy
Yeah,
would.
yeah.
That
Every
guy would.
you're like
Yeah.
every VHS has no label on it.
You'd think the drummer from Motley Crue would be smarter.
I had one thing on I'll tell you, I had one thing on tape that a guest said, a little spicy, and I deleted it.
Oh, yeah.
I had watched it one time for myself.
Wait,
I said, wow.
Was this a pre-interview thing?
Yeah, it was a pre-interview, and it wasn't like shady. Like we said, like, we were recording, but we hadn't started.
Oh, yeah.
And they said something crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember I had it on my computer, and I said,
Yeah,
I should delete this.
You should delete it, yeah.
I should delete this. And I watched it one more time, and I said, wow. And I deleted it. And then I watched the Bill Cosby 77 album. So Cops, just fill people in. You wrote on, this was in Louis' prime.
Yeah.
And he had an animation coming out on TBS.
We wrapped a month before
Holy
that article came out.
shit.
Yeah.
So it was a 10-episode animation series.
Yeah. And I was going to have my name on 2 of the episodes. Yeah.
Was it good?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, but I get what happened and why it happened, and I'm not one of those.
we understand.
we're not
We're not in
not-
Austin, so
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
there's the worst thing that I mean it is what it is, and
They could have gotten a new voice actor, filled it in.
no, I mean he like created and like co-wrote, and it was him and Albert Brooks, and the working with Albert Brooks was like
wow.
crazy.
Holy
the
shit.
most amazing, yeah. But look, man, like
It's crazy to think it exists somewhere. I mean,
You
was
don't
it
have
wrapped like it was edited? It was voice
No, it's
recorded?
animation,
Oh,
so that
okay.
stuff takes forever. There was like animatics.
Got it.
It's crazy to just think it exists, though.
Yeah.
That it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, the scripts are there and all of that, and one of the characters I named after my sister. And it was cool because like the way that it worked was like you would just the way that his mind creatively, like with the show Louis and all that, like you would. It was like open season. It was like in best idea, or not even best idea, or one that most appealed to him. I think one, and like there was a character, and it just didn't have a name, and I gave it a name, and they're like, yeah, we'll just use that name for all the episodes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that's cool, But I mean, yeah, it's one of those like
I just think about like for people who don't know, with pilot season, and it's kind of streaming kind of fractured it, but these TV networks would pay absurd amounts of money to film a pilot. And so many didn't go forward. And sometimes you'll be in acting classes and they'll give you scripts for pilots that never got made. And you're like, oh my God, the script is amazing. And it's like, yeah, it was a TV show, and it was Nathan Lane opposite another great actor. And it exists. It's been filmed, it's been edited, it's been color corrected.
There's so many.
And we'll never see it. And it exists somewhere.
YouTube has been doing a great job of like, there's this channel Rare Gems that I watch a lot. And they put a lot of black sitcoms, a lot of from like the 80s and 90s that were either a pilot or one season. There's like Tommy Davidson starred in a Coming to America pilot.
Oh wow.
And that was a big thing like in the 80s and 90s. If a movie was huge, they would try to make, there's like a Ferris Bueller one. Kevin Meaney was an Uncle Buck.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I watched,
because they rarely ever got the guy from the movie.
Yeah.
I watched one leaked animation. It was a Rodney Dangerfield cartoon. It was like a kid struggling in high school, and instead of like a ghost helping him along, it was Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
Be like, kid, you don't get no respect. That was just like me. Let me tell you about Dr. Vinny Boombots. By the way, I've noticed a lot of my newer stand-up ideas more and more about doctors. More and more about doctors
you're making
visits,
more money.
medication.
Yeah, you're
sure. I'm finally seeing
You're
them.
losing yourself from the connection of your regular audience. Oh, this guy's got health insurance. Fucking elitist.
I walk in, no one can relate to anything. Oh, doctor. Whoa.
He's got the confidence to show off his legs.
I am. Well, Mike, it's great to have you on.
Thank you.
I was certainly very familiar with your work with roasts.
Yeah.
And Russell's never done a roast.
No, I'm not a stand-up.
But now you're the second comic to roast him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Can I say one? When I saw
I
it,
bet I'm also like the second one to acknowledge him.
No, people talked.
I mean, your co-host certainly does it in the title.
Yeah, that's so true.
oh my God, we're really harping on this.
Unless, what if you don't realize it, but the whole time you've been the downside?
Maybe.
You're the titular character of the podcast. The downside with Gianmarco.
Yeah.
And he's the sidekick.
Yeah.
We can make the flyer look like that next time.
Yeah.
Well, this is we were recording a bunch of episodes in advance. This is coming out August 27th.
Oh my God! Wow.
And we apologize. The last 3 episodes, we just talked about Biden being the candidate for about an hour.
No, we talked about.
No, we made predictions.
Yeah.
My crazy prediction right now, people are going to listen to August 27th. Trump drops J.D. Vance as vice president and replaces him with a different nominee.
Who?
And it's a woman.
Really?
That woman who shot her dog. He goes,
Oh
you know
yeah.
what?
What was that woman's name?
I don't know, but she had a short-lived.
Just get the dog.
That was her book that she wrote it in. She wrote it in her book that she
did.
shot the dog.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Self-inflicted wound.
You know what? She was mean to her editor, and the editor could have deleted it. Didn't.
Sure.
Be nice to the people that work for you. Man. That's the lesson of the day.
Yeah. You're doing great today, buddy. I'm sorry. Was that okay that I touched your knee?
Wow.
We're both doing
Christ.
short shorts today.
Yeah, I know. So much leg cleavage.
So Mike, we saw each other. Where were we again?
Somewhere in
Denver.
yeah.
Denver?
Yeah, I reached out to you.
It was very nice.
Yeah.
We ordered.
I did that thing. So I was opening for Pete Davidson, and I looked at who was at the comedy club. And I don't do that a lot.
It's a good trick.
I saw that you were there, and you were there on a Sunday, and I was like, I'm there Sunday. and I reached out.
That's
And he
nice.
said, yeah, and we had dinner together.
So we had a sushi dinner. I didn't really know what I ordered. You know, I just kind of I did it. So we each got like 2 kind of appetizer things, I think, or it was just appetizers, but they brought out 2. Yeah. So I just started eating one. I was like, well, this doesn't even look like what I ordered. Turns out they had just brought both of his, and I was eating his entire plate. And it was utterly humiliating because my explanation was like,
I'm a restrained fat guy. I'm also overweight. And I was just like, I will allow this because I know what I will look like if I think that's my food.
But then I had to really admit that I care so little about what happens in my life that I'm like, well, this wasn't what I ordered, and I'm just gonna eat it, and I must have been a mistake, and now I'm gonna eat it. And
how much time passed before they brought yours out?
I think when they brought the second thing out, I was like halfway through, and I said, "Hey, wait a second."
Yeah,
because I think kind of slowly
Gianmarco
started
thinks
eating
all
one
Japanese
of my dishes.
food looks alike. I can't tell my gyozas from my sticky rice.
Before one thing I want to say real quick, Russell, your wife told me you lied to me about something.
what?
You told me you had stopped watching reality TV.
I
And
dabble.
yet your
in-
wife sent me a video of you watching a cheerleader.
Well, she was
competition.
watching the Netflix thing, and I got drawn in. It's an entertaining
Do you
show.
know the show? What is it called?
Oh, the Dallas
Yeah,
cheerleaders? Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting world. Anytime there's a world where you're like, that's happening, I've never even heard of that. Never even thought about it. Do you
I
know
like
what I mean?
showbiz adjacent.
Yeah,
I like.
Well, they're very competitive, and it's like a whole. They have like, they can just be like, you're too fat, and it's acceptable. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, it's like the one thing that you can be like, you're too fat, and like they're not.
She's walking
fat.
up to a girl with big boobs, and was just like, it's a lot up here, and that was it. And I was like, well, then what?
Yeah,
Honey, you need a better surgeon. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know though. I watched it though, and it was like it was like an older woman who's like mean.
Yeah.
And like,
But
you know,
she's not mean.
I don't know. It's sometimes the thing she's saying seems random. And I'm
it's-
ultimately like, the bottom line is this one's the hottest. And you're like, she's like, you did great. And she has
Yeah.
notes for everyone who wasn't the hottest.
But it reminds me of like an acting school thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Like it's like
when you watch from far, you're like, are you helpful or are you just abusive?
Yeah, it's
And
definitely a
people-
cult. It's definitely like
Sure.
like people, they don't get paid much of anything.
I have a friend who was a Dallas cheerleader. I could
Really?
probably get him on the show, an ex-Dallas cheerleader.
They get paid like $20,000 a year, I think.
oh my God.
And then they have to work full-time jobs. Some of them are like dentists and doing that. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Imagine your dentist. My dentist is not a Dallas cheerleader. I'll tell
You need some Novocaine. Give me an N. Give me a O. Give me a V. It's also like it's crazy because they don't actually do anything, you know? Like it's not like the team whose cheers are led better wins.
Sure.
It's the
Well-
team with the better athletes usually.
Well, and it's funny because it's like Dallas, and you're like the heyday of when that became a thing is not really what
No.
it is anymore.
But it's like why don't they get the money? Oh, because they're spending it on the people that win.
yeah,
It's also just a weird thing of like, when I think cheerleading, I think like Bring It On. There's like competition,
Yeah.
but the thing itself is just the sideline thing. And I'd rather see a competition of that over a football game any day of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like they did that. I remember they did a show Cheer, and then one like the most likable guy who became a star from it was like a pedophile. And they're like, yeah, let's just focus on the female cheerleaders now.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy.
That fake blood's about to fall off. Just so you know, it's okay. It's next to the
but
Undertaker.
it's in the Undertaker's crotch. So
I think it's a pretty good place for fake blood to be.
yeah.
So you
He's
like?
so upset that he didn't get to speak at the RNC. Undertaker.
Let me tell you, the Undertaker. I saw a video.
He's like, I beat Hogan at Survivor Series '91.
What's crazy is I have a bit that references the Undertaker, and I introduce it for people who don't know.
Yeah.
It's shocking how many people know who the Undertaker is, how
yeah.
deep it is in the
Come on.
zeitgeist beyond wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's like this Christian guy, there's some video of him in the
Now?
ring. Oh yeah.
Always.
But at some
Or
point in
now?
the ring, like in character, his wife, maybe they got married, I don't know, but he says something about like, it's all because of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, you're the Undertaker.
Yeah.
You're the living dead. You can't be talking about Jesus. That is the biggest betrayal to the what's the word?
Well, he had long hair and rose, and so does the Undertaker.
Sure, the Undertaker comes back to life way more than Jesus ever did.
Yeah.
And it's a real It's a real bummer.
I want to
really,
teach Jesus how to kick out at 2.5. Jesus got pinned.
watching all those wrestlers, because his brother, Kane,
Yeah.
what's his name?
Well, his real name is Glenn Jacobs, and he's the mayor of like Knox County. He's like a huge Republican.
And it's so funny because The Undertaker and him, Kane, his brother, started with a mask on. I don't know if
Yeah.
he had a character before that ever.
Oh, he had multiple characters. He originally, well, I'll just go to his WWF history and not lose
Please.
the audience completely. But he was in 1995, going back to the cheerleader thing, he was a dentist that Jerry Lawler had named Dr. Isaac Yankum.
Yank 'em.
I Yankum, yep. And then now this was the dumbest thing. So in 1996, Diesel and Razor Ramon, the characters, they the guys who played them left to WCW and they started the NWO.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, but WWF still owned the characters of Diesel and Razor Ramon, so they got guys to play them.
Do you know that? It's crazy.
No. Wow.
So
But none of the
Jim
fans
Ross
accepted
comes
that,
out.
right? Did they go
No.
stop it?
No, it was very insulting, and it was a very bad time in the business. But they brought out.
It's like if I got a new host, a new co-host, and I
just
said it's
didn't
Russell
address it.
Daniels.
Yeah, and you just
and I
didn't
said I
address it.
own Russell Daniels.
It's just Tim Dillon in your shorts.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hey, Tim, you want to
Hey,
be the
Tim.
co-host?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not on
yeah,
the
yeah,
title card.
I will happily accept
Yeah.
those toys.
I'll fly out once a week.
We said it was, but Russell once came to see me at Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
And they thought he
They
was
thought
Tim
I
Dillon.
was Tim Dillon.
And I said, man,
They were
if he
about
had
to
bumped
bump-
me, for my headlining show, would have been
hilarious.
brilliant.
But
Wait,
yeah, so he played fake Diesel. So and then but he was always reliable. There's only so many like 7-foot guys who are like decent at wrestling. Most of them are very tall guys are usually really bad, and he was decent. And it was like, but there is a lesson there of take the shitty gigs, right? Because you don't know what it'll lead to.
Sure.
So then when they are coming up with Kane and the mythology behind that and all that, the first guy they think of is, this fake Diesel guy was
Yeah.
pretty good. Like,
But
look,
Kane
the gimmick
wore-
sucked, but
He wore like a huge face mask.
yeah.
And there's always a thing where like, ugh,
And he spoke
every day
with
you
a
gotta
speaker box.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Oh.
King of the Ring 98. It was the thing with him and Stone. It was the dumbest. They had a first blood match, which whoever bleeds first loses, but Kane's entire body is covered and he's got a mask. So he wins. But the whole thing was, if I lose, I will set myself on fire.
And then imagine every day you go to work, you got to put this mask on. No one knows your face. How are you going to build up your
Yeah.
reputation? And then one day, and I would love to know these negotiations where it's like one day it's kind of a smaller mask.
Yeah.
And then one day he's like, what if I revealed my face?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and same with the Undertaker. He used to wear like real costumes, big gloves.
Yeah.
And then gradually they get lazier and lazier.
Yeah.
And one day they go, I'm just going to keep the jeans on from my motorcycle. And the character just kind of vanishes.
Oh,
the
he
more-
went through like a whole Wild Hogs, like came out to Limp Bizkit, Undertaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the real guy's name's Mark Calloway. He's like, I think the fans just want to see Mark be Mark. And I'm like, no, we like the Undertaker. Because then they
And he's
brought
just
the
like-
Undertaker back. Like, yeah, this is what we want. Like,
Yeah. But it's the evolution of these characters and why and like what didn't stick and what stuck.
We
and
don't
then
need the real
what was for
guy.
convenience. Where did they have their knee hurt? So they added the brace. Then they kept the brace after the fact.
the Undertaker says rest in peace, and Mark Calloway says blue lives matter. You know?
Wait, if you had to make a prediction on the next pop culture or celebrity who's going to make the transition to a Republican politician, who would it be? Because a lot of wrestlers transition into politics, kind of weirdly,
Sure.
right? Like
Sure. They know what it is to like get
The Rock.
crowd.
The
To
Rock
get a
is dallied.
dumbass crowd
The Rock
to
is kind
believe a bunch of
hinted.
bullshit. I mean, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
God,
Which has nothing to do with
wrestler?
why they're into Christianity.
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
And I could see
I could see like some like a weird like reality, like someone from like Jersey Shore, like Mike the Situation,
Sure.
getting into like getting in.
What we
being-
need to do
being a
is
big Republican.
reassess the situation.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
that's-
slogan.
Well,
He's
that's
got the
'cause-
drug pass. He can blame it on illegal immigrants, like J.D. Vance blamed his
go
mom's
be
drug
real
addiction on.
Christianity.
But it's always a
Snooki.
person.
Snooki.
Nah, it's always someone deeper in than that because they're
Yeah.
like reality stars are like on the fringe kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's always someone who like I played by the rules
Mm.
and there was things there, you know, like almost like every like celebrity that becomes a Republican, it's always like, you know, I just couldn't stand all the child murder and kidnapping anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
always like they saw
Yeah.
there's always an origin story of what made them snap, you know, like Rob Schneider, like, you know, it was during Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo, that I realized I couldn't stand no more. You know?
I think what's so weird though for me when like, so I was seeing not J.D. Vance. Who's the one that Venmo'd the teens?
Matt Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz.
Oh
And
yeah,
people
with
were
that
making-
face that he had.
They were making fun of his
man.
appearance and the highlights and the lowlights and the Botox and the whatever. And you always, whenever I see like those
He
guys,
does
like,
look like an N64 character.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like he does look like
Yeah, he
if
looks-
you created Donny Osmond in
Yeah.
No Mercy.
but like I'm like those guys. There's no way. It's the same with wrestling, where like wrestling is theater adjacent,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like it's costumes, and it's also like you're wearing nothing.
Yeah.
and it's like it is very gay.
Gay. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
gay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you go
Yeah,
to these
you know,
things?
The goal is to make someone pin them down or they submit.
yeah,
It is gay. Yeah.
yeah,
fair,
or it's homoerotic, certainly.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how do you have more in common with like the typical Republican voter that you're like advertising yourself to than the theatrical? If you're a TV person, if you're Rob Schneider, you've been surrounded by the queer community, and then you're going to go to this Republican side, which is like devoid. I just don't understand. If you're a guy who likes makeup, fucking go to the DNC.
Yeah.
But Gianmarco, you've seen the makeup they wear.
Yeah.
Sure,
This is
it's
straight
bad.
people applying.
But didn't
But how do those guys?
didn't during the RNC it like crashed Grinder? Like it was like, you know what I mean? Like
Well, that
there's,
was going
like,
to be my this got to stop. Every time there's an RNC or something, they go like, Grinder crashed. And it's such, they
At what point do we blame the servers at Grindr, by the way?
yeah.
At what point do we say
Yeah.
you guys need better firewalls? Like, it can't always be
Yeah.
just the wanton sex.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has to be your browser.
But they always say it as like a victory, and I'm like, it's not a victory because there doesn't seem to
Yeah.
be any action that's
doesn't
taken
change
with
it.
It doesn't change. The
Yeah.
RNC doesn't go, well, maybe we
Wow,
need
we
to
have a lot
pass
of
some
gay
more
people
pro
here. Yeah,
LGBT.
yeah, yeah.
No, they just bury it more, and it's very frustrating to hear that at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so they're all closeted gays passing anti-LGBT legislation. Are we going to do
LGBT2.
anything? LGBT2. I don't. It's just strange.
There's a sequel?
How, like some of those guys have got to see Matt Gaetz in person, and it looks bad on camera. I
Yeah.
believe you
I
me in person.
can't
It's got to
believe-
look
I can't imagine in person.
crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got to look like if I was in full drag
like
right
you,
now.
like if you walked into a room, you'd be like, "Holy shit!"
And Kid Rock doesn't see that and go like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this makes sense.
I don't know if Kid Rock how he looks like in person.
I'm sure
You
he
know what I
looks a
mean?
little made up
Like,
too.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets to judge.
Yeah.
I saw a video on his origin story.
And
He
he-
came
and he-
from money and
Oh,
Kid
yeah.
Rock?
yeah, and then like got into white boy Detroit rap.
He
and-
calls himself Bob, but he's got Robert money. Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I'm like, you know how I introduced Kid Rock? It was like third grade, like because I was at my dad's, he wasn't looking. I had like Kid Rock CD, Eminem CD, and Kid Rock CD I remember distinctly because it was filled with him at concerts and big fake titted women. They had stars over the nipples, but it was like him and Eminem just like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my Republican stepfather wouldn't even allow me to have Eminem CDs in the house. I mean, if he knew what the Kid Rock CD had, he'd be even more. And I'm like, and now that guy is on this party
Yeah.
that my stepfather is a fan of, and it's just crazy. The movement.
Yeah, but like Kid Rock owned a person. He had like a little guy, Joe C, that he would like take.
He owned him, yeah?
He basically owned him until he died. Yeah.
Yeah, what was his
He
name?
bought a
True?
human being, Joe C.
What do you mean he
When he
bought?
bought.
You're
He
saying
had like a little
metaphorically.
guy that it was basically felt like you know, in the same way that like Marlon Brando with that little guy in Dr. Moreau, you know.
Do you live in his house?
Yeah, I think so.
Wait.
I don't think he owned him outright. I think there's a
No,
law
but
against
I
that.
mean, you know,
for all respect. Do you remember him?
No.
Joe C. Jace. What'd you
Joe
say?
C.
Joe C. There's
think-
one song that he came out on a rap that I remember, and he
Yeah,
Do you
raps.
think back in the
He's-
day, he and Vern Troyer were friends?
No, they're probably enemies.
Bro,
This town ain't big enough for the both. Actually, it
this
is.
town is too big.
This town is too tall for the both of us.
That's so funny. This town is too big for the. Oh, they're both dead.
Yeah.
No.
He died.
Anything excess is bad. Anything you're too little, too short. You know, it's not good.
Too tall.
Yeah. You got to get that Goldilocks just right.
Yeah.
Just right. So you grew up in Florida.
Yeah. Speaking of Matt Gates, we are from the same town.
Really?
Davie, Florida. Yeah,
Really?
that's correct. Yeah.
And do you feel any kinship with him because of that? Tell me, okay, I don't really get. I know Florida's hot, and I know when things are hot, people go crazy a little.
Yeah.
Is Florida's crazy reputation deserved?
Yeah, but I think that it's there's a misconception. Like it's not the heat as much as the constant heat. The fact that there's no off switch. You know what I mean? Seasons are a way to change and grow and self-reflect and to mark a passage of time. And when you have no seasons, you're just the same all the time. You know, and I think that's Florida. Florida also really struggles with a cultural identity, like in the same way that like it was one of the first places in America to have settlers of any kind. You know, in St. Augustine with the conquistadors and all of that. That's before Jamestown. That's before Roanoke. Even all of that stuff.
Yeah,
Florida first, but it's still people didn't start living there consistently until like the 1970s, and when they started, you know, moving there, everyone came at the same time and they all stuck their flag in at the same time and they're all like, this is mine. And so everyone like kind of overcompensates.
And when you say everyone, which segments, because our history skills are not great.
That's okay.
When you say everyone, like what sects, what groups, when you say they all came at
The
once?
New York Jews,
The New York
the
Jews.
Cubans, the hillbillies, you know, because like Florida, like
There's a panhandle there that's very like.
but there was like rebel flag, like that. That's what was interesting about it was, where I grew up in, you know, South Florida, you know, like around the Fort Lauderdale area, you saw every type of person, all types of diversity, you know, and they're trying to coexist and they don't know how. Like the gays and the homophobes are together. The racist and all of the races are together. You know, in a lot of places, it's just a town of racist. You know?
Sure, but then why does it feel like it is so racist? Why
Because they
isn't the
have
melting
practice.
pot?
Yeah.
Why isn't the melting pot melted?
Yeah, because that's the problem. Is it's a melting pot of everything that you can't scrape out because it's stuck to the bottom.
I see.
It's like the worst of everything. Because they all feel like they have to overcompensate. Like I said, like it was fascinating. My dad, when he remarried, he married this Cuban woman, and you know, like her family, they left in like 1959 during the Revolution and all of that, and they were those like die hard, like the second Castro dies, we're gonna come back. And I remember I was already, you know, I was living in New York I think at the time, or maybe I was in LA, but when I went to visit was the weekend that Castro died.
Oh my God.
And it was like this crazy thing. And I saw all of her family and I was like, so? And they're like, we've been here too long. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
wow.
But it's always struggled. Like being on the inside of it, like I could tell you why the 2000 election happened the way that it happened and things like that, because, you know, it was like a lot of the Elian Gonzalez stuff that happened.
Oh yeah.
Where a lot of Cubans who,
Can you remind? Because I remember it. I was younger, but
he was a child that, and look, if I get some of this wrong, I apologize, but he was a child who had emigrated. His father, I believe, was still in Cuba. He came with his mom, and I think the mom passed away.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was whether or not he should be sent back.
they
And
were
he-
divorced. Or they were separated.
Yeah, they're separated.
Okay.
Yeah. And he they ended up sending him back, and it was like Janet Reno was the one behind it, and there was like, footage of like, cops with like a gun in his face and everything, and this caused like massive protest and everything,
because he must have had someone.
The
here.
highways were shut down. Yeah,
Did he had family
He
here?
must have had someone here that they.
I believe
wanted
so.
like a grandma or aunt or
I
something,
think so. They made a TV movie of it, and in the TV movie, when he's immigrating, he's on the raft. 2 dolphins jump over him and form a rainbow.
Oh my god!
But the whole thing, they saw him as like the baby Jesus, that he was like this very important, significant person that needed to be here. And by the way, while this was all happening, hundreds of Haitians were being deported and sent back.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, this was like a big national story. That's its own thing. But
where were the political parties on this issue? Were they? Janet Reno was a
Democrat?
Democrat.
Yeah.
So like the
so
protest
she was working with Clinton.
Democrats are bad sometimes.
So,
oh my god!
So, but basically, there was a good amount of the Cuban population that had been voting blue that was like, we never will again.
Oh,
but were the Republicans going like, let's keep this kid? Did they see it as an opportunity to be?
I think
or it's just the Democrats were so behaving,
and
so
they're the ones
evilly.
that they were the ones in power, and they were the ones who had made the decision.
And that influenced.
Yeah, because it's hard to
ultimately?
even imagine like. I don't remember what the Republican stance was. This is where I'm a little ignorant on all this.
Sure.
And it's also hard to imagine that they'd be pro keep a kid in America.
Yeah.
But it is like those things that happen form. I remember there's someone in my family that they immigrated to America, and the reason that they were, until they passed away, of staunchly conservative is because that when they moved here, they tried to get like help in immigration and things like that, and getting someone else over here, or their wife over here, and the Democrat offered to help and took some money, being like, if you give me this, blah blah blah.
Sure.
Took the money, never helped them, and then a Republican ended up helping them, and then they were like, this day, no matter where the party goes, I am fully support. You know what I
It
mean?
makes sense. No matter where the party goes, though, is the part where I go like, guys.
No, I
things
know,
shift and
but
they
that's
change.
that. It is
Yeah.
the thing that happens sometimes.
Of course, but that's one of the biggest. That was the whole hypocrisy where Trump with the kids in cages, and then the person said, "Mommy, no more kids in cages," and it was like, no, that's not Democrats' main thing.
No,
That's not their.
no.
They just changed the name.
Yeah, but so anyway, that was like the massive like shift, and they lost a vote that they never got back.
And so you had already left at this point. Oh no!
That was when
you
Cashew died. I lived there until 2006. I moved to New York in 2007.
Okay.
Do you remember when the 2000 election happened? Like, were you
Oh,
plugged in enough to be
I
like,
was-
oh, I know where this is going?
It's amazing. Yeah, I was at the Broward Center of the Performing Arts. Where I'm opening for Pete there in September, and that means a lot to me to be able to like perform there, because I went there all the time as a kid. That was like the big like hoity-toity, big field trips. But
So what is it? It's just a theater?
Yeah,
it's
like
cool.
a
Theater in
2,000
Miami,
seat.
or-
Yeah. Is in Fort Lauderdale,
Okay.
and they would have I remember I went there. I saw Stomp there with my dad, and during the intermission, he just goes, I think they're just going to hit more pots and pans. I don't know if you want to go back in.
Oh, wow.
He's like, I think we saw it all.
Oh my god.
He wasn't wrong.
He's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You don't need it. That show should not
It'd
have
be
an
funny if there
intermission.
was it was a straight up play in the
Yeah,
second half.
you give people a chance to leave and they're going to go.
Yeah. Wait, it's just racket. No, but I remember that night, the 2000 election, when it was happening, Otello, the opera, was playing, and I went with my class. I was a senior in high school, and there were 2 intermissions. And during the first intermission, I think Gore was winning, and then during the second intermission,
brutal.
Bush was winning, and we were like freaking out. And then when we got home, my dad, who voted for Nader, God bless him, was sitting in his underwear, and he's like, I don't know who the hell's gonna win this thing. But he's like, but it's our fault. He's like, they're blaming us.
Oh,
And I
my
remember even my
God.
mom was like, this wouldn't have happened if your father didn't vote for Nader.
Just one vote
Yeah,
difference.
It was his, yeah.
Nader took a lot of heat. But then ultimately, again, this is only what I've listened past that point of like the Supreme Court kind of fucked it up.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily.
Yeah,
There was a lot of
Catherine
stuff there.
Harris got involved. Remember her?
Yeah.
She was the Secretary of State at the time, or what was she? She something.
Yeah.
She was a big.
I just
Florida
remember
person.
Chads hanging Chads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what comics were saying.
Oh no.
How many hanging Chad
Thank God
jokes.
Twitter didn't
Oh
exist.
God.
I saw the other day a comic, I swear, posted a captioned vertical clip, I swear, within an hour of Biden, like, or of Kamala getting the endorsement, or like something to the point where I said, I'm out. I can't.
What do you mean?
I can't compete with this.
They of doing a bit already?
Oh yeah, like a bit
Yeah.
on
Oh, yeah,
stage,
yeah.
but like on stage with an audience caption, and I was
Yeah.
like,
I saw. Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
These comedy clubs, they take 3 days sometimes to give you the tape, and you're like, I can't. We don't have that time anymore.
Yeah.
I need this live streamed.
I'm not trying to be good. I'm trying to be first.
Yeah.
Like we it's honestly like the comedy club sometimes like, no, we should delete this. We're thinking on your best behalf.
Yeah.
Like what you did, and they're just like, no, but I need the likes.
Yeah. So I'm just fascinated. So, but I mean, because Florida has this Florida man thing.
Yes.
But that's partially because there's some law where whenever someone gets arrested, they have to make it public. There's something that makes it seem even worse
Yeah.
than it is.
Yeah, but it's also it's like it's so funny, and I'm sure this is true of anyone anywhere where you live, where it's like when you make fun of yourself and you get together with other people from where you are and you make fun of yourselves, like there's so much more like dignity to it than what other people do.
True.
And like with all these like Florida stereotypes and stuff, where it's like they don't know the history behind the chaos and everything, and like
Yeah.
it's like you almost have to have like some level of empathy. Like it's kind of amazing, like when I think about, like my son's adopted from Florida, and we had 2 adoptions that fell through, and that was the third one, and it worked and it's a success. But I also was like, this is kind of like, I'm kind of excited about this. Like, like adopting someone from my own state that I have like these conflicting views on and everything. But it was like, I look at myself and I think like, who knows? But like, I think a part of why I was so obsessed with pop culture and everything is I didn't like my current surroundings.
Yeah.
And I was
sure.
and in my mind, I'm like,
Do you feel like you saved him from that?
well, there was I don't know, I want to say the word saved yet. But there was this thought of like, the main goal as a parent is to make sure that your kids have a better life than you. And I'm like, I took him out of Florida 14 days into him being born. I did it.
Sure. The adoption, I don't know much about it. How? So you said 2 did not go through?
Yeah.
From different states or different places, or why didn't they go through?
The moms decided to parent the kids. Yeah.
Wow. How deep were you into the process?
We heard both of those situations after the children were born. Yeah.
So you were,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
By the second one, did you feel like for the second one, did you go like, hey, we sure? Before you like got deeper in? Like,
yeah,
were you,
and then by the third one, like we didn't even have a name. Like, because the
you
first
had names
one,
for the first 2?
yeah.
Oh
I
my
know.
God.
Oh, we had a nurse, it was like, and that was like a process of like a year and a half. Like, and I remember I would try to do bits about it and they were just so depressing.
What were they? Like, what would you say?
Jesus.
I was like, man, an empty nursery isn't as fun as you think it's going to be.
And the audience just starts crying.
Yeah. But stuff like that. And, it was this thing.
That really feels like the setup to more.
No.
But you just
and
sit,
then
you go
and then
moving on.
That's really
Yeah.
That's
funny.
my time.
Yeah, that's my time.
Yeah, and theirs. No, but I mean, it's one of those like, giving a child up for adoption is such a heavy thing. And what was crazy about it, I became so familiar with the grieving process in that time, and I realized like one of the most uncomfortable things is when people are mad for you. Like
Really?
I would have people in my life that, and I know they were doing this to be supportive, but they were like, I remember like talking to someone extremely close to me, and they're like, "You want me to call that mom?" Like the first time, it's like no. They're like, I mean, she broke a promise to you. She said she was gonna. I'm like, no, it's and the circumstances of it and everything were like very complicated, and and just in a way I don't want to like publicly.
You hadn't met the baby, had you?
No, but we'd met both the birth moms. Yeah,
sure. How did you want people, like when you're in that kind of moment, what do you want people to just give you a hug?
I want them to listen.
Yeah.
As opposed like when my dad died last year, it was like similar of like, I think it just happens, our nature in the grieving process is just to like feel like we're doing our jobs as friends. And like, I want you to know I'm here for you. I'm there for you. I'm supporting you. It's like we're saying things, but not doing them.
Yeah.
Like being there for someone isn't saying you're being there for someone. It's actually just sometimes physically being there.
Sure. Or my girlfriend always tells me where there's like, I'm like, tell me what I can do.
Yeah.
And she's like,
just do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, just send the meal or send the thing that instead of being like, can I cook you something?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
because
like, just send
now
it.
they lost someone and they're burdened with work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they're having to
To
delegate.
come up or think about
Oh,
what do I need? I don't know.
And then I say, I'm sorry for wanting to know how I can help. So, okay. So you two don't work out. Was there any part of you that said, man, does this ever work?
There's a part of me, but then it was like, I have been in the business of rejection for years.
Sure.
And it's like, nah, you
True.
wait things out. And I mean,
What's harder, getting an audition at the Comedy Cellar or adopting a kid in America?
Well, I got passed over twice in both, so.
You need recs for both, I'm sure. You need referrals or something. How do you, is this an agency?
Yeah.
And they find people who are.
It's the way that we did it, it's like, so we only did domestic. International is like its own thing. And we started in 2020. So we didn't even like, at that time, international wasn't even a possibility, of like going to another country, getting someone from another country. It just wasn't gonna even.
It was just
happen.
too hard because of
International travel and everything.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
COVID. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we did the domestic thing, and you make a profile, and it's like a dating profile almost, but we made this 4-page profile, and it's called like a Dear Expectant Mother letter, where the whole thing is like you're writing to a mom of like why you would be a good family for their child.
Wow.
And you put up pictures, interests.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was there any part of you that worried they'd look up your roast battles and go, this guy's a fucking jerk?
No.
What are your, so how long of a letter? Are we talking like,
well, here's the reality is that a lot of the people that are even in the adoption process are so deep in crisis. I don't know. They're like,
Sure.
My life's in shambles and I can't support this child I'm pregnant with. I'm going to go Google some roast battles.
sure.
Yeah.
Hey, that Matt Broussard looks great. Maybe he could raise my child. That fat guy in the glasses shouldn't have beaten him.
They see Matt Broussard, they're like, that's going to be the guy who gives me my next child. That's for sure. So you write a letter.
I love Matt Broussard.
Listen,
just
he was
the
our
name that
first
popped.
guest.
First guest.
He's our first guest.
This is the first name that popped in my head because
Listen,
I battled him, but not
The
yet.
first guy that pops into my head sometimes.
I
And I go,
wanted-
what are you doing there, Matt?
And he knows this because I've said to him, I wanted to not like him, and when I battled him, I was like so angry and like. But when you battle, like you talk to the other person's, you get to know them, and I was like, I really like this guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I remember him telling me like he's like I have like sculptures of Pokemon that I make out of like
He does.
clay, and I was like, oh man, you're just hot enough that no one thinks you're as autistic as I am. But you are. and now I love that guy. Yeah.
When you meet other autistic people, do you go, oh, you're more or less or equal than? Like, do you put it in your head like that?
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the one of the most uncomfortable things is this would definitely be this has got to stop
Uh-huh.
for me is people will ask me to like sniff for them, like the whole like gaydar thing, like you're gay, you get your gay friend to see if someone,
Sure.
and they're like,
Oh, they ask you to.
you think it's like I say like it feels like being like a legal immigrant. Like, well, you got your papers. Can you go see if they do?
Yeah.
Like I'll be told like, hey, I think this person's faking it. Can you find out for me?
Yeah, diagnose
Oh
them.
man, I hate that you
Yeah.
said that because I got a question for you right
That's
now,
all right.
bubbling in my brain, not on the pod. Okay, do you think that you have a better radar, or would there
No,
be?
because I didn't know I was. I had terrible autistic. I should
I
have
would
known
argue
I
that
was.
you wouldn't have a good radar because you're autistic.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that true? Isn't part of?
Yeah. But I'm so autistic. I didn't know I was autistic for years. Like I say that on stage now. Like I took the autism test. That's what you have to do when everyone knows but you. And it's true because like so I took the test, and this was during the adoption process. I wanted to know who I was better, to understand myself, to be as the best father I could be.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of times you could tell you're autistic if you're like, well, that's just me.
Sure.
What you're saying is that's just that's my tiz, and so I was doing that a lot more. And then I remember I took the test, and I did really well. And 100%. And I remember it was the funniest, like I had the results, and and my wife had said for years, yeah, you probably do, and and if you do, I love you no matter what. But I was genuinely nervous to tell her when I had the official information.
Really?
She was at work and she was coming home, and I had to tell her, and I was like, yeah, so it's official. I am on the autism spectrum and all that. She's like, yeah, I know. Like, so it was like, no,
What did you think would change? Because
Yeah,
obviously
is there
knew you.
anything that happens after? Like, do you once you get diagnosed? Do you?
Yeah,
did you have to
what
do-
changes is you are given a limit by that person of how many times you could use it as an excuse for your behavior. Sometimes she'll say, this is the best. She's like, yeah, just because she's like, I got stuff too.
Sure.
And you gotta, she's like, I'm allowed to, just because I don't have a name for it, like, so we learn to understand each other better.
Did it change anything for how you understand yourself?
Yeah,
other
yeah.
than new stand-up bits, of course.
Oh,
but like,
yeah.
how did it change like the way that you think about yourself in the world?
It made me realize that certain things, like, there was like the negative connotation of it was, oh, this is just a cycle and a pattern you're stuck in and you can't get out of. And then, but then the thought was like, yeah, but you can enjoy it. Like was one of my things. Like I get really obsessed with things.
We heard the wrestling stuff earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, on a micro level, and, and it can be very alienating. And I have to realize that, oh, sometimes that's just me really into a thing, and I can't bother other people with it. I can't, interrupt their conversations with it. I have to just nurse it until it's gone and deal with it on my own. Like I was genuinely, you said this is airing the 27th. We're taping this a few days after the Hulk Hogan RNC speech.
Sure, we can talk about it for sure.
I mean, I was obsessed, and and I am a massive wrestling fan who was very anti Hogan as a child. I was very pro Ultimate Warrior, who also right wing.
I read the Vince
psycho.
McMahon book, and
Yeah.
like he seemed like everyone hated this guy.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
was
yeah,
also. It's very interesting because he was a bad wrestler,
Yeah.
but was very famous. And it's the version of like comedians. Like again, it's every art form.
Yeah.
Where it's like he was at the top, he looked great, he was hot. One might call him the Matt Rife of the WWF. And but he was also like extremely difficult. It seems like.
Well, you heard a lot of people like that's when people from the outside, when they hear like a term like bad wrestler, like, what does that mean? It's all fake. But it's like, yeah, but there are guys who can make it look like they're slamming you hard and they're not. They can make it look like they're punching you in the face. They're not even touching you.
By the way, it's my dream. In terms of like famous dreams, my fantasy is to like get some finishing move done to me in a wrestling ring. Like I want to get that would be truly I would cry. I'd be so happy.
I remember in 2009 when I was like at the height of my poverty, maybe my brother got me 2 tickets to Monday Night Raw at MSG, and I'd never been to the Garden. And, you know, to see wrestling there, I was like, this is the coolest. And, you know, I went with my buddy Dan St. Germain. You know, we're big wrestling fans. And we saw Judah Friedlander come out. Who
oh, my God.
Now, you know, in our minds, you know, it's like he's like this big, you know, massive comic and, like, you know, really respected in the clubs and all of that. And he comes out. I think he's like a special guest, like ring announcer or something for like some women's battle royale. And the real Judah is like, as far as I know, like is a big wrestling fan.
Sure.
And so I know like this was an exciting moment for him, but it was so funny, you know, and because this is when 30 Rock was on.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they play the 30 Rock theme as his entrance. And we both at first were like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like this, what a dream to, you know, be in the wrestling ring. And the crowd boos him so hard because they
Not
don't
a lot
want
of Tina Fey fans there.
No. Maybe if Twofer came out. No.
Oh man.
No, but maybe Lutz, you know, but like they boo him so hard. And my thought is like, oh yeah, because wrestling fans don't like anything that isn't wrestling.
Yeah.
That's so. Can you do you would that be cool for you to one day experience walking out and have an arena boo you? Not for something where you failed at, but just like this was not the place for you to be.
I mean, it'd be a fun story. I don't know though in the moment if it'd ever be a fun in the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like you could definitely appreciate it with a little time and space. Be like, I got booed at MSG.
Did he handle it well? Did he go, fuck you?
Yeah.
No, he just did, you know, here are your ladies in the match or whatever it was. He just did the job he was asked to do.
That's so funny.
It's also like a live TV show. It's like where you get a break character. And
Yeah.
So I only went to a couple of live wrestling matches. Did you ever go? I forget.
No, I never went.
Did you ever enjoy? Was there ever a wrestler that
Not
you
really.
Like?
No, I was never into it.
I went. I think it was a non-aired wrestling match,
a house show,
show. And my dad, we got up really close. And it was Mankind, Kane's, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think The Undertaker, maybe. But definitely Stone Cold Steve Austin like beat up Mankind.
Yeah.
And he had this thing, his bit, he'd put on a sock. It was Mr. Sacco, and he'd just stick it down your throat until you tapped out. That was his finishing move. And Stone Cold Steve Austin like beat him, ripped off the sock, poured beer all over it. And then my dad was like, over here. And Stone Cold threw me the Mr. Sacco sock. And I had this thing at home, and it stank like, you know, Bud Light or whatever. And it was so fucking cool.
You still have it?
I do. Someone washed it. Someone washed it, and I was
I will
devastated.
never wash this sock. No.
Now it's just a sock with permanent marker face on the top.
That's awesome.
So you're when you were diagnosed.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't change other than knowing maybe your thought patterns. Like, was there any other significant change in your life?
Oh yeah, because I had to, you know, I was like, oh, this is why I feel this way. This is why this thing, like I was able to take some control.
Do you go to therapy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did your therapist go like, yeah, finally you got this fucking test done? We've been talking about this for a while. It's a big thing to know about a person.
Yeah. No, she was just like, yeah, I guess you weren't listening to me all those years. You know?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, yeah, I did, but I was like, I needed like the official. Yeah. I mean, this is what was like so perfect for me specifically was so the way that the test works, the way that I did it, it was this psychological group. And a lot of times, you know, they mainly specialize in children because that's when you're supposed to get diagnosed.
Sure.
And
it's a funny scene. You there with like 20 little kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm somehow blinking more than all of them. Yeah. But no, but the test was in 3 parts. You know, the second part was like this, long survey, and you have to talk to your family. The third part was, you go in to the office. But the first part, and this was during COVID, was a consultation. It was like a 2-hour, Zoom with the main doctor. And then when you get your diagnosis, you get like the very specific notes about you from her. But so she's interviewing me, and I have behind me is a poster of Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's 136, and it's Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin. It's the first time that Harry Osborn, the son of the Green Goblin, is the Green Goblin, and very significant moment that needs to be in a poster. And she's interviewing me, and she's like, "Yeah, you might be surprised who my ex-husband is, but I think you know who he is." And her name is Dr. Conway. And I was like, Conway? I was like, you mean Gary Conway? The guy who killed Gwen Stacy? The guy who wrote the issue of that comic? She's like, mm-hmm.
That's wild.
And then she writes.
Do you imagine that he was autistic too, and that's why she became a doctor?
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to do is just ask questions about Gary Conway after that. I'm like,
and she's like,
so the way he
we'll
treated
get to the diagnosis right now.
Yeah, the way he treated Gwen Stacy, was that how he treated you? When he created the Punisher, was that because he liked exacting pain on you? But no, it was like, but she writes in there, she has this like thing of just like, subject found out, husband, ex-husband was a comic creator, then continually wanted to ask questions about his creations and not focus on the test.
That's so funny.
I like imagining though, like they're like, okay, we have all this paperwork, all this stuff, and then they sit down for a 2-hour Zoom, and in the first minute they're like, autistic. Do you know what I mean? We got to do this 2-hour intervy.
Just the Zoom background. They're like, well, clearly
they log on. They're
you
like,
could have just sent us a
good.
picture. Why in fandom, whether it be Marvel, wrestling, Star Wars, is this also a gathering of more autistic people than other communities per se? Like, is the fandom of it and the detail orientation, because it's like part of it is your memory of these things so exceeds my ability to even remember. And I imagine that would make this more exciting in general.
Well, I think, no, because and based on even what you're saying, that's sports, right? Like the high levels of all this stuff, sports fandom, it's nothing but statistics. And, when people like remember, in the same way I can remember, stuff that happened in comic books from the 60s before I was born, when people can remember Babe Ruth stats from the 30s. And it's like, you didn't even see any of these games, it's insane. And so I think it's just like fanaticism. And, because a lot of times, right, people will even say like, well, everyone's nerdy now because nerdy stuff is the culture. And I'm like, yeah, but the levels of it are still very defined.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's like, just because everyone knows who Thanos is and sees an Avengers movie doesn't mean
they don't know the ex-wife of his creator.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Jim Starlin's divorced, but first appearance Iron Man 55.
Oh my God.
Is he?
Wow.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
What is the thing with I know trains is the punchline.
Yes.
Like it's so common that a comic can just go trains and the whole audience gets it.
I do it and it works, and I'm not into trains.
But why trains?
Well, also because I'm Jewish. We have a different connotation with those. We don't like when they show up on time.
Why trains? Just because it's
I think it's
reliable?
all about schedules. I think it's all about schedules.
Yeah.
And the efficiency of it. And because I'm very time obsessed, schedule obsessed. I think that there's also like the possibility of endless possibilities that you could just keep building a track.
Really?
Like a track can be small, like if you're doing model trains, but it could also be bigger and bigger.
Sure.
And you could have stuff around it. And it's all about world building.
Yeah.
And then that there's movement, there's like a comfort in that. there's a comfort in things going forward. The progression of things, and there's a truthfulness in it, like and a simplicity. A train's just there to take you somewhere else.
Yeah,
We're going on one tomorrow.
we're going on a train tomorrow.
But you look at all these cars and stuff, and they're wasteful because they go places they don't need to. Train's just taking you from one station to another. It's got a purpose.
Yeah.
Autistic people, like, at least I feel this, I never want to speak for anyone else's experiences. Although I just did. But it is that thing, like, having purpose is like important. Like, if the world is a machine, I want to be an effective cog in it.
Yeah. Can I ask, I'll keep this vague. Let's say I have someone very close to me whose father they suspect they're autistic.
Yeah.
But never diagnosed.
Yeah.
And I think there's elements of the relationship where they haven't been able to connect necessarily on all the levels that they might see their friends connecting with their dad, etc.
Yeah.
When you think about being a father and now this diagnosis, like, does it inform things that you think about in terms of how you're going to raise your kid?
Yeah, I think I'm going to communicate and be more honest. I don't even think it was like I was lied to, but I think that my parents didn't have all the information that they should have had or could have had, because like I said, in the second phase of the test, you talk to your parents. That's a big part of testing for autism. You talk to people that were there for the early development of your life.
Really?
Because they could see, early signs, and you ask them if they remember certain things.
They went on the Zoom with you, or they called?
No, these were calls I was told to have on my own after. And I was, asked to then report them to the assessor.
Did your parents tell you any stories where you're like, oh yeah, I did do that as a kid?
Well, the initial reactions were perfect because, I talked to my mom and she's just like, she just felt guilt. She was like, I didn't know you weren't supposed to smoke when you were pregnant back then. And, and she's like, yeah, I mean, maybe you are, but like, you're fine. You seem happy. You got a woman that loves you. I'm like, yeah, no, it's okay. If I am, it's okay. And then, I'm very thankful that I got to have this conversation with my dad before he passed. But, then I asked him and he was like, yeah, whatever you had, I probably had too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I could see so much of my dad, in me and realize like certain things things that I thought were disconnects where we really were connecting. And that there was even more to our relationship than I thought. And that's kind of sweet. Because in my mind, like, it's a big thing that we say now where, everyone is overdiagnosed and over-medicated and all that. It's like, no, we're just making up for your mistakes.
Sure.
It was that people were under-medicated and underdiagnosed and didn't go to therapy. Like the fact that you even asked, okay, so you have this, label, are you treating it? Like that's a very modern, way of accepting these things. But years for years, and we say this like in specific communities, right? Therapy is, ignored, or, people don't take therapy. It's like, you realize like every community is like this because older generations are so alike of, we don't believe in therapy and we don't, you handle your own stuff, right? Like, remember, like it used to be my least favorite type of comedy.
Sure.
When,
back in my day?
Well, not just back in my day, but, we were fine. It's like, I always call it the I turned out me comedy.
Sure.
Yeah. I had all these things and I turned out me. And it's always like, there's always like a certain type of guy,
I think to get psychological about that feeling, because I had it to where like I finally went to a psychologist, and I think I'm gonna get. Go ahead. I think I'm gonna get an Adderall prescription, and I was doing the test to like fill out, do I have ADHD?
Yeah.
And I was trying to be honest. I wasn't just gonna lie to get the Adderall.
Yeah.
But I'm filling it out, and I'm like, there's like if you go a certain level, the box is gray to indicate like, oh, you are kind of in the area of ADHD. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have a lot. And I think sometimes there's a feeling of like, I went through all of schooling with mild ADHD, or maybe something I could have taken a little bit of Adderall, my life could have been very different.
Yeah.
I could have gotten through some of these classes with a lot more like pain and a lot more like going crazy internally. And there's almost a feeling of, oh my God, all this time, all this wasted years. And I think sometimes the feeling of not wanting to get changed or get fixed is a feel, or try medication is a feeling of like, if you acknowledge that it could have been better, there's a pain over the life you could have had or the things you should have done sooner. Yeah. And I think, I don't think they're thinking that deep, but I think sometimes the reaction to any kind of feelings of vulnerability, it's just like, it's fine. Shut up.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough. It's like I look at like regrets and mistakes that I've had, and and I know that some of that can be chalked up to not knowing certain things about myself, but I still have to take responsibility for all of it, and I have to try to make sure that those things don't happen again. But then it's that thought of, all right, well, now that I have this knowledge, how do I make things better? And like, even because I didn't do stand-up for like a few years, like during the pandemic and stuff, and so when I started doing it again, and with the diagnosis and talking about being autistic and talking about the adoption process, it was like I had all these things happen in my life that hadn't happened in the first like 16 years of my stand-up career. But then what was actually really exciting was the approach to everything of like, I was always one of those people, and there's so many of us where my entire mood, my existence was determined by the reactions I get. And, and now I don't care as much.
Sure.
And I feel like some of that is like I instinctively, I don't do video clips and things like that. And I have nothing against anyone who does. But for me, a part of it is knowing like the specific type of exhaustion that would cause me, and maybe how that is related to my own autism. It's okay that I don't do that.
Sure.
I mean, it's doing that as a form of work, and then I have to look at it and be like, well, that's not work that I want to do, but then that means I have to do work in other ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
Before we go on to this got to stop, I do want to touch on one thing about roast. I was listening to. I've never listened to a full episode of Kill Tony, but I listened to some of it, and I think I kind of understand how it's the evolution of roast. I mean, it's wrestling like in certain elements, especially seeing Shane Gillis as Trump.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, now there's characters are intermingling with this, and it's roasts, and I guess I worry this will come off like I hate to use the word woke as a adjective, but sometimes I'm like that's what I'm trying to say is like what seems so hard sometimes with roasts, because I love it. I love it as an art form. I always tell people, the only thing I tell people when they say, how do I get into comedy or how do I become a better comic, I go, roasts are what taught me that I wasn't really writing jokes, and it changed everything for me. Bombing at a couple roasts really set me on the path that I am now, whatever that might be. And then there's this mix. I think Usama Siddiqui once had some tweet just saying like roast battles are just a way for white people to be racist again. Yeah. And you do look at roasts, and it is very extremely male heavy to a degree. Yeah. And it is one of those things that it is edgelordy, and it attracts some of the worst kind of guys. And it also is a mix of like brilliant joke writing, but it plays off, it leans into stereotypes. It leans into kind of hate speech stuff. And sometimes I'm like, man, how does it become I want it to be a diverse playing field where everyone's being vicious and brilliant joke writers, but at the same time, I'm like, the way that it's structured, it sometimes doesn't feel like it gives room for a lot of people to enter. I mean, Kill Tony. Well, I just saw one recently where there was I know I'm rambling, where someone came on and they were disabled. They had arms that kind of were shorter and kind of, and you know, they were vicious. They said, or one guy said just some horrible shit. But instead of like, you know, getting whiny about it or being upset, this guy just made a video on Instagram that fucking roasted the shit out of this guy. I'm being vague, not just to be vague, because I don't remember anyone's names.
Yeah.
But it was like, I don't know. I guess you're so familiar with the art form, and like, is there any way that it could evolve to a place that allows it to be more like, if you're gay and you're gonna do roasts, that's all anyone's gonna fucking talk. You have to figure out how to navigate that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just hard because the moment you start talking about this stuff, well, then you're the fucking scold at the roast and go fuck yourself. That's not what this is about.
I mean, I think that it's fascinating because, you know, the first roast battle that I had was, you know, 10 years ago, you know, and I wasn't at the ground floor of roast battle, but I was within a year. You know, and I remember going there the first couple times and, you know, hearing like even the legend of it. You know, I was still living in New York and, you know, I went to the Comedy Store and I judged and I was like, oh, this is amazing, you know, and it was fascinating seeing like, and I do think that it has gotten better in time. I think it has gotten more diverse in many ways, maybe not as reflective of the world as it should be. But I think the problem sometimes is within the community itself and the comics that do it. They're so obsessed with winning. You know, and just wanting to get a reaction. And I find, you know, and I say this of gay comics, black comics, female comics, comics of all different types that I have seen do roast battles very well, where they're the ones who just don't care as much about winning, don't care as much about the reaction, and I say this, everyone should do this. You know, if you're a stand-up comedian who roast battles, which is most of the people that roast battle, your roast battle should be a reflection of your act. It shouldn't just be how do you bring yourself to the show. It should be how do you get the show to come to you, and how you get it to fit your voice. And I see people that do that very successfully, you know, and I've seen like very funny transgender battlers of you know, of both sides, non-binary. I've seen a lot of this more recently as, you know, as the world opens up more, and it is at a slower pace, but I think the change does come from within, and a lot of times it's those comics that are in their stand-up saying, I don't give a fuck if I kill or bomb. It is important to be myself now. And now when I see people doing that a year in, 2 years in, as someone that I think it took me so much longer to do that, you know, I have so much respect for it.
Sure.
And I think that there's a way to do it, and I've seen it done successfully. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's always going to be this fight to just go back to what works, and in terms of like what is familiar. But I do think, you know, it was like interesting, like, you know, like let's talk about like, you know, Sam J's roast set at the Tom Brady roast.
Sure.
Where she's a very different type of, you know, performer than what you're used to. There's a black lesbian that you don't see a lot of black lesbians, you know, booked in the roast world in general.
Sure.
Right. And she goes up, and the reason, and I said this to her that night, and it's what I said. It was like, you brought the show to you. You did a Sam J performance. You were yourself, and that's why it was great. You didn't compromise who you were. You didn't give up any parts of yourself. You embraced everything. The fact that her first few minutes were about Bert Kreischer.
Yeah.
And because that's clearly what she personally feels.
Yeah.
She's like, whether or not I have the crowd on my side, this is what I want to do. I think honestly, that's how every art form improves and evolves, is the artist within take it. They don't care how they're going to do, and they just make it their own thing.
Yeah.
So, and I've seen that happen in roast battles. You know, there's a woman who won the LA roast battle tournament. She's from Austin, Heather Keith, and she has this completely different style. And I believe she's a Latina. I don't know if I'm wrong about that. I'm wrong, but I know she's a woman of color. But like really funny. Like, but there's like a positivity, and there's like you watch her roast battle, and you want to see her stand up because she's so infectious and her personality is so fascinating.
I
hope that was an actual answer.
No, that was an actual.
Yeah.
Is there any favorite roast joke you can remember someone else saying that you can remember off the top of your head?
About me?
Sure, or any roast joke in general. Like I always think of. Do you remember Robin Tran's 9/11 joke?
Yeah.
Do you know how it went? Do you remember the wording of it?
Oh, is this about Keith Carey? I think. Yeah. I don't remember.
Something about he was supposed to be on a plane, one of
Yeah.
the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center, so he saved 2 lives that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was about the 2 seats. Yeah. That one I remember.
What's the best someone said about you?
Zach Amico.
Uh-huh.
Which, by the way, just the fact that like seeing a guy like that who is his own thing, and being embraced by that community, and he's such a weirdo, but he's so himself, and I love Zach. If you guys know Zach,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You have met him, but he's a good joke writer.
he's a fantastic joke writer. He said, and this was before my diagnosis, but so that makes it even better. Yeah, he had 2. He goes, Mike Lawrence. He's like, Mike Lawrence rocks, back and forth as he judges comic book movies in silence.
Amazing.
And then the other one,
Amazing.
this was his last joke. He's like, there's nothing I'd like to do at the end of this battle more than look you in the eyes and shake your hand, but I know you're incapable of those 2 things.
That's so good.
And I remember when he said that, the cackle that my wife Adina gave of like being seen. Like, he has what I know he has. And that was like 4 or 5 years before my diagnosis.
That's so
I
funny.
wasn't with Tova, my girlfriend, when I did roast battles. If I heard her fucking cackle at like the other comedians roasting about me, that would really get me. in
Adina
the
would
guts.
always be like, why don't they ask me? She's like, I know what to say. She's like, they do all these hacky homeless jokes about your beard and shit. Like, they don't say anything about how bad of a person you could be.
Would you ever do a live show roast battle, you versus me?
No. You know I hate them. They stress me out.
It'd be the only time you're on the marquee.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus. we're
but
gonna have to
his
have a
name-
conversation after this episode ends.
His name is longer, so he takes
By
up
the
more of
way-
it still.
By the way, for the live tour, it is titled Gianmarco Soresi and Russell Daniels.
It is for the live tour. We're working it in. Yeah.
I think you'd be a great roaster. I think you'd say something really. I think you'd do the thing.
Russell
where I'd be
Daniels.
like, what the fuck, dude?
Russell
Yeah,
Daniels,
I
he
think
may
I
not not help sell the tickets, but he's not the reason you're not buying them.
I think I could have like 3 bad jokes in a row, and then maybe one that works and is really hurtful. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the potential. I think.
Let's go to our next segment.
This has got to stop.
This has got to stop. Do you have this got to stop?
Yeah, but I wanted to change it because I realized we're coming out for so long.
Okay.
It feels you go first.
Okay. This is a very personal one.
Oh my God.
What are relationships but a negotiation of chores?
Okay.
And sometimes,
That sounds like the second you said that, like you turned into Billy Crystal now. Not a relationships,
Yeah,
but a negotiation.
what
I feel like you're
yeah.
narrating something I'm about to see directed by Rob Reiner.
So, Tova and I would go back and forth. Why did the dishes? Could you do this? I did this. Do you do this? Sometimes it's just equitable, just happens. Sometimes you got to clarify, have a little conversations.
Yeah.
Doing the laundry as a task, it doesn't conclude with all the clean clothes smushed in the laundry
You gotta
basket.
put it away.
At the minimum, it's got to come out of the basket and at least be on another surface. Maybe folded.
So you're sending it out though too, right?
Sometimes, but now we also have the in-unit. It's not our unit, but it's in-unit on the floor,
Yeah.
which you think would be easy, but it's complicated. You have to leave. Other people are using it,
Yeah.
and you go, fuck it, just send it out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you say, well, I did the laundry, but it's still so smushed in the bag, you didn't do the laundry. You could say I did a portion of the laundry. You could say I did 60% of the laundry, 70%.
Yeah.
You agree with me on this?
Well, I think we're falling on opposite different sides of the thing. I think I have an understanding of like usually Nicole does it, but I sometimes I have to put it away. That thing.
But Nicole would never say to you, well, I did the laundry.
But what do you can see if it's in the bag still, right? Like you're not. What are you going to drawers and then nothing's there and then you're just like your day's ruined?
No, it's not about that. It's about what you get to claim. What you get to claim on the report.
I think that is 70%.
I feel like I'm
of it.
watching an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but only if they use the first take.
You hear that, Tova? We're all in agreement. Do you have yours now?
No, I don't. Yeah, okay. Because I'm sure it'll happen again in our lifetime. Joe Biden stepped out, right? He's quitting. These posts.
Hey, August 27th, the late Joe Biden.
I know, but listen,
late Joe Biden.
it'll be.
Yeah.
People will do it again with any politician that's
He does the wrong bump of Hunter's Coke and he's gone.
ended their run, and they write these things, greatest president of the generation. I don't know why people are writing these things that they're acting like it's a card that he's going to read himself, that he's their grandfather. Like, I don't know why they feel so sad.
And if they know he's not reading it, who is it for?
Who's it for?
Themselves. Who is most social media for?
But why are
For
you
years.
praising?
It's the weird thing of like being like, why does it have to be so?
He did a noble thing
He did
today.
a noble thing.
No, because
the
the
donors
opposite
said they're
was
not
the
going to give
worst.
money anymore.
Yeah.
and then he was not going to be able to run a campaign.
He fought it tooth and nail.
Yeah, what are you talking
He
about?
fought it tooth and nail.
I'd say false tooth and nail.
Yeah,
But like but it is that thing. There's this constant like they're good. I'm like, this is their job. They're getting paid for this. Like as a reminder,
Yeah.
they're getting housing and insurance and paid.
And it's only
no other person would you give this deference to for doing the job that you gave them.
and it's only because Trump is so bad that the bar is so low that you forget that like he was fighting this the whole way through. People could see that he couldn't talk or walk or do anything, and he was still fighting it for a month. What are you talking about?
At the most, I think you could praise, okay, at least we have a system where someone can get enough pressure to step down
Yes.
and they have to.
Yeah.
But that's all I think you
That's
get to
all.
praise. You'll get to praise the guy for ultimately having to do what he was left no choice to do.
Well, here's a deeper issue, praising or denouncing these people one way or the other so deeply is why we're in the problems we're in the first place. Like you
Yes.
said, the
Yes.
word job is what we forget. Like,
Yes.
especially like when you then take that energy and you immediately transfer it to the next candidate as a form of worship. Like, we don't need to worship these people. We just need.
We don't have to like them. We don't. I mean,
We don't have to like- yeah.
this weird thing of like people.
They're plumbers.
Yes.
yes.
Just fix my pipes.
Yes.
I don't need to know you.
I don't want to talk about you so much. The
Yeah.
thing is like they're in our lives too much. They're occupying too much of our thing. Do your job. Get off my thing.
Are there some countries where you're only allowed to campaign for like a certain amount of time
Yes.
before the election?
Yes.
I think what's kind of cool about the Kamala thing becoming like Trump goes like, well, we spent all these ads, we focused all this stuff, and part of me is like, yeah, you know what? Make it a little later that we figure out who the person is, so we don't have to fucking do this whole.
and they
this,
don't have to campaign for years and not do it.
and not do
think
their job. How can you
Anyways,
campaign and do
anyways.
your job?
I think Trump can improv hating a black woman. I don't think that's. Is that
yeah,
too
yeah,
tough for
yeah.
you? Is that too hard of a prompt?
Yeah. I mean, it's been weird. They're focusing on the idea that they're like trying to be like, well, she gave blowjobs to someone when
What? I haven't-
they're going
oh
after
my
like
God.
rumors of, oh, she blew her way to the top.
my
And I'm like,
God.
Trump literally was on. Someone, I tweeted something, and someone said like, no, Clinton was the guy on Epstein's island. I'm like, they both were, buddy.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
both. He left voicemails for Epstein. What was the voicemail?
Yeah.
What do you think the voicemail was to Jeffrey Epstein? Hey, I know you're into physics. Could you tell me your latest thoughts?
Yeah.
No, it was, hey, I need a masseuse now. 14 to 15.
How much is that waitress in the window? Woof woof. The one with the waggly tail.
Do you have a This Gotta Stop? I know you kind of said one during the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Oh, I wrote a few.
Sure.
But I'll just do one. This is, look, this is a parenting one. But I'm watching, my son Logan, he's 20 months. So he's starting to like watch TV a little bit. He hadn't been before, and it's a nice welcome. Any type of pacifier will do. I hate that all the shows now have real kid voices. I miss my Frank Welkers, my Tress McNeils, my Charlie Adlers.
Yeah.
My Rob Paulsons. Like when we grew up, like we had all these like voice actors, Nancy Cartwright, and
Nancy
they
Cartwright,
would
yeah.
do the voices, and look, sometimes they overdid it, and they were hired too much, but the kids, a lot of times they don't make me feel anything. Like I remember the first time that a show like really advertised these are all real kids doing the voices was Hey Arnold, and it was like a big deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and but now like they all sound the same.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the stuff that he watches is like kind of mediocre CGI. Canadian non-union child voice actors.
Yeah.
That's what's sad too. Like like when you know too much working in show business, we're like, man, these kids, like, I can't even be happy that they're getting residuals because they're not.
Yeah.
But so many of these shows now, and I knew I would connect with no one on this, but I had to say it. They're just like an emptiness to them.
Yeah.
No, I always thought if I had kids, I'd be much more invested in like the quality of these kid shows and be like, can you make this okay for me to watch?
When I watch with my nephews, I'm also like shocked. They're just so mean. Like everyone talks so mean to each other. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's like the Disney Channel stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah. They're a little older. They're like 9, but
Yeah.
like it's just like these kids being mean, and you're like,
Yeah.
ugh, like why is this?
Well, they took like all the sitcom scripts from like the 70s,
uh-huh.
and they just and now it's like the kids are the hippies, and any adult in the
Yeah.
room is the Archie Bunker they all hate.
Yes, they hate those adults. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they really are dumb
It'd
too.
be funny you see a kid show and you're like, oh my God, this is The Office.
Yeah,
This one
you
kid,
will.
Yeah.
This one kid promises a bunch of inner city toddlers that he's going to pay for their middle school education.
You will, because that'll happen. Like humor will evolve and change, and then the thing that we thought was sophisticated, there will be Disney Channel Seinfeld.
Oh my
What's the
God.
deal with school lunch? Why is it called a sloppy Joe? Sloppy Joe should be clean.
Can you imagine someone doing like, what's the deal with Pop-Tarts? And they made a whole movie out of it? That would be
Yeah.
fucking stupid as shit. Let's go to our last segment.
You better count your blessings.
You better count your blessing. I'll never forgive that movie. I'll never forgive that movie.
The Pop-Tart movie?
I'll never forgive
fuck
that I
that
watched that whole
movie.
movie.
Yeah, it stayed in the toaster a bit too long.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it is.
No,
one
it's
of
not
those-
No,
fun.
it's
Don't
not
lie to
fun.
me.
Oh, here, let me
Don't
say
lie
this.
to me.
Let me say this. That money could have been used to feed people.
Sure.
even if they airdrop Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My blessing. Oh my God. Oh, I wanted to say, so we're going on our tour. Tomorrow we're recording this in advance, blah, blah, blah. Again, you can see bits and pieces from the tour, patreon.com/downside. We're going to put it all there. Very excited. We got Zarna Garg as our guest for New York.
Yes.
Paige Asachika is our producer, and she lives in Orange County now, but she is flying to our second stop and staying with us for 3 days.
Yes.
And I want to be perfectly clear. She's not doing it for the money.
No.
This particular, we're all hoping we get there someday.
Yeah.
But she is going on this journey, and she has helped us book some activities.
Yeah.
She's helped us book everything, and she's like real taking the reins. And I'm extremely grateful to have a producer working on it with me and Russell.
I'm excited to I'm excited to have some to do this with you. You know, I never gotten on the road with you. I'm excited to have a little extra time. I think it'll be fun.
I cannot believe we got a 6:30 a.m. train.
I know.
We are
get in.
fucking
We're in
nuts.
them by 9:30.
I know.
We have the whole day.
We have the whole day, and we're
I mean,
getting
I'll have
dinner
to do some work and
with
stuff.
my
Is this Boston?
father.
Yes.
First we go to
DC.
DC, then Boston,
DC,
then
yeah.
Philly.
What
and
time
then
is
New
dinner
York.
with your dad?
4:30,
Okay, great.
because we want to get the sound, his first show, sound
Yeah, yeah,
cues. But my dad called today, sure enough, to be like, can we move it?
Is Tova coming?
Tova will be there, yeah.
Is she coming tomorrow morning 6:30 or no? Later?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Let's do this off the pod. Do you have a blessing?
Yeah. I just went on my first family vacation.
Woo.
That wasn't work based, and
Yeah.
it wasn't seeing either of our families. It's just me, my wife, and my kid in the Dominican Republic.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, my son, at a little over a year and a half, got a passport.
Hell yeah.
That's
Wow.
and I didn't get one until I was almost 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Same.
So like that feeling of like, you know, like I said, your kid having a better life than you,
Yeah.
and that he's already, because sometimes when I go on the road, I'll take him and Adina with me, and that's a blessing. Like that he gets to see the country, he gets to be all these cool places. Even we live in LA, but I'm in New York now. But we've been to Maine, and we were in Boston, and we've been to. I've already taken my kid to Vegas. Like I don't know, that's like very exciting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A baby passport. That's so
Yeah,
cute.
it's a very cute. They only last 5 years instead of 10.
That's great.
Oh.
I guess because they look a lot different.
Yeah,
It was
that's
so
true.
funny because like his photo, it's always that thing of like I always want to be like, look, I look like what a QAnon person thinks a kidnapper looks like. So if you could smile at all times, it would really help both of us. You already don't look like me. You can at least look happy to be
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
And he's got this begrudging passport photo, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's so funny when I've been we did a house swap, and I've been in Brooklyn with him, and he's mixed. I'm very white, and he's that black, and we go out, and people will like look at him and then look at me, and they almost want to like ask it, like wink and say you're fine. You consented to this, didn't you? He's like, no, I didn't, but my mom did.
That'd be his first words. No, I didn't.
His first word was Ellie, which is our dog. Before Mama and Dada.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like, I know who I love.
Where can people find you?
Find me. I'm on Instagram, Mike Lawrence Comedy. I'm doing some dates with Pete Davidson in the future, which some of those might be the past. I'm around. I wrote on the Tom Brady roast, so if you want to watch that, it might help with the residuals. It might not, but people seem to like it, and I had to learn what football was.
Wild. Where can people find you?
Instagram at Russell J. Daniels.
I'm everywhere at Gianmarco Soresi. And August 27th, I'm back on tour, baby. I'm going to Toronto. By now, hopefully, we've added our 8th show. I got Vancouver coming up. I got Vermont coming up. So just go to everything at Gianmarco Soresi. And again, join that Patreon. I know some of you guys are listening and you're so close. Just fucking join it. Patreon.com/downside. Lots of cool stuff when you got a long road trip. And to see us off, Mike, do you remember one of the best jokes you wrote for the Brady roast?
Yeah. I'm going to say one of my favorites was aired or not aired. It just doesn't matter.
You could do whichever's spicier.
A joke that made me laugh a lot that did air was I gave it, and I think Bert gave me credit for this, so I could say it, but the difference between Bert Kreischer, the difference between Tom Brady and Adolf Hitler is Hitler was with his wife till the end.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! And then what was one that did an air?
Oh man, it was I wrote this for who's the coach guy?
Bill Belichick.
Yes, that was beautiful right there.
From us is
From
crazy.
two guys.
Yeah. No, it was there's nothing I like, it was like a version of the Amico joke that he gave even. It's like, there's nothing I like to do more than say that I am proud of you at the end of this roast if I thought you could feel something, Tom.
Hell yeah. This is The Downside.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.